Well, howdy there. I went like that because our guest today is in Los Angeles from not Howdy Land, I guess, but the USA. And today we're going to have a lot of fun with Tony. We're going to find out a little bit about his life, how come he was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and so that you don't hear me talking all the time, let's bring our guest on and say hello to Tony.
Hello, great to hang with you, Shane.
Oh,
what a great introduction! I was in awe. That was great.
Well, we have a new one each time we do a live stream, hopefully.
Huh?
Yeah. So that was your one.
Kudos to you. Yeah. All right.
So how's your day been?
It's okay. Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. Like I come here and I'm like, oh, someone else who gets me on the inside. Now I can relax.
Yeah, well, we got held up because we were talking and laughing, and we look forward to finding out more about your intriguing life. So tell us, how did you get into the J-Dubs?
Well, my parents were converted when I was about 3 years old. So
right.
So at 3 years old, my thought process was, this sounds like the truth. No, I mean, no.
You're talking about a 3-year-old.
I was 3 years old. Yeah. I just like, it's like, okay, great. I gotta now for the rest of my life, I get to sit still 3 nights a week and go preaching 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I mean, it's so. As far as how I got in, I was just in, and there was nothing else. It was truth, and it was life. And what a shame that the rest of the world didn't know about it.
Oh. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you were 3. What was your first memory of being a J-Dub?
Huh. Yeah, that's funny. I remember being at the Kingdom Hall, and I was probably about 3 years old, maybe 4 years old. And I was laying on the floor, and there was a bag of cookies next to me with but it had a rubber band around it. And my uncle had to open it with his hand, and he used one hand to open it, and it blew my mind. And then I ate a cookie. So that's my earliest memory of the Kingdom Hall.
So have you been able to copy your uncle's magnificent rubber band undoing?
It blew my mind that he can do it with one hand. How do people do this? I got a lot to learn.
I don't know if I could do that, but anyway, tell me.
I was just a little kid who didn't have any muscles, so I'm just watching him do that. It just, these people.
Well, that's a great memory to have at the Kingdom Hall.
It's all right. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was back when I think this is the 70s, so they used to let the kids when you were like young, they put a blanket out for you so you can fall asleep and listen to the hypnosis of propaganda coming in. And just and you could smell the violence in the air.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking of my first memory. We had vinyl floors on our Kingdom Hall floors, and I did fall asleep on the floor.
And that was 22? No, I'm kidding.
No, actually 34. No. Okay, so did you ever get baptized?
Yeah, I did. I got baptized when I was 6. Yeah, when I was 16. It's I mean, the teenagers were rough, and my dad kind of. I mean, I knew it. I didn't believe that it wasn't the truth, and I knew I had to get baptized. And my dad kind of said, "Well, if you," he just mentioned this kind of like, if you're responsible enough to drive a car, you're responsible enough to get baptized. Hint, hint, you're not going to get a driver's license if you don't get baptized. And a driver's license is freedom. So dunk me in the water. But I would have been dunked anyway. It happened, at 16, which, I mean, I feel for these kids who were dunked at like 9. I'm like, these parents who let people who like go, oh yeah, you're ready. And you can get to fellowship at 10. How's that?
That's the one.
Yeah. They don't tell you that.
Yeah, I was 15 when I got baptized.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. My daughter was 12.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. But she has another story to tell about that, but anyway.
Oh, cool. Is she still in or is she out?
No, she's out. She's gone.
Cool.
We were able to assist her to get out, and she's so much happier. So that's good.
Yeah, it's interesting because I saw the word happy. You know, we're happy. I'm like, wait, people are happy because I feel a little better, but I still struggle. But what's all this? Who wants happy? Is I don't want to pretend like I'm happy. I feel like I'm in a better place.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So you got baptized. What else happened? How long did you stay baptized for?
I still am, actually, if you really think about it.
Yeah, true. Well, let's rephrase it. How long have you not been a Jehovah's Witness for?
So in September 1999, I told my wife at the time, I was married. I was a Jehovah's Witness. I got married, and I was a virgin until I was 25. And then we got married. And then in 1999, I said, ooh, I read a book. I read a biography of Che Guevara. It was a biography of his life that came out in 1999, and I didn't know who the guy was, and I read it. And
you better tell me who he is. I've never heard of him.
He was kind of revolutionary. He lived a very interesting life, but then he ended up kind of being guerrilla warfare for Fidel Castro, and then he like slaughtered a lot of people. But his early days were really interesting to me because he stood up and wouldn't accept injustice from he wouldn't accept corruption, and he kind of put his life on the line for that. And after I read that, I'd been thinking about it for years, and before that, about the things that are really kind of wrong in the Jehovah's Witnesses, and one of them just being how shitty they treated like single moms, and how these elders get people giving talks that are 25 years old to these women who have 2 kids that are struggling, and they're just like, you got to get your kid taken care of because you're getting you're interrupting the speaker. And it was just little things like that where I'm like, what, it's just wrong. And plus all the committee meetings I was on, I mean, I was a backroom regular, but I was earnest. I was trying to stay. I was just So it was after I read that book, and I went, I just can't go anymore, because I'm to the point now where when they say something stupid from the platform, I have to raise my hand and go, you know what? There's 2 points to that, and you need to take in consideration that person and that person. And the horror on the face of my wife at the time was just like, she's just like, can you just go like once a month? And I'm like, no, I'm out. And she's like, okay, well, I guess you're going through a phase. And then 9 years later, she realized I wasn't going through a phase, and we got divorced.
Oh, you got divorced.
But it was that was 9 years later. So, but I mean, what I was doing with my life was I was just interested in reading. I was writing. I was a lunatic for film. I started this website called Film Junkie. I was going to festivals. I was interviewing filmmakers. I was essentially just, the Jehovah's Witnesses are like, oh, they left, so they must be going to orgies and having drugs. I'm like, no, I'm going to a filmmaker, a Swedish filmmaker screening, and then I'm going to talk to him after. And they're like, well, we don't know what to do with that. So it's just like, anyway, yeah, it's, I was the ultimate confuser. They thought I was having sex with all the single sisters before I got married. And I'm like, no, I was the only one. It turns out I find out I was the only one that like wasn't doing anything. I was actually really in the belief system. And I'm like, why were they always after me? It's so weird. But and then I was the confuser when I just kind of left quietly and did my thing. And I had to go. I went to the memorial every year, because if I didn't, my ex-wife would be her brothers and sisters and her extended family of dipshits. Can I say that? Yeah, no, they were awful. And elder brothers that were just like always had something to say about, I think we saw too much hair growth on your beard hair growth on your husband. And I'm just like sitting there going, I was a
that's just the cat. That's the cat walking
Yeah,
around with
exactly.
cat on.
Yeah. But I only went to the memorial. I went to one day of the district assembly every year and the memorial every year. So it was 2 days of detention to keep my marriage together. But then I realized that I would just take like a bunch of Xanax and go to the memorial and just sit there and be like, so. And then in 2008, I found out I was getting divorced, and I was like,
that's nice.
oh, okay. I was in therapy at the time. Well, I'm still in therapy, but at the time I was in therapy and I was like, I can't go to the memorial anymore. So I was working up to how to tell the woman I was married to that this is going to be my last memorial. And my life. And we were starting to work on that in therapy. And then, I find out like 3 weeks later, oh, she'd been cheating on me for 2 years. And then she left and then she had the divorce all planned. And I'm like, never had to have the memorial conversation. Well, there's that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, dear me. So, did you end up having any children during that marriage?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I was more open to it, but she wasn't. And that's, the whole Jehovah's Witness thing where it's just like, oh, you can wait until the new system to have children.
Yeah.
Just wait. It's so hard right now. How are you going to bring a child through Armageddon?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the horror show that they put on.
But
and then in the end, I'm lucky. I think we didn't, because I would have just been demonized beyond belief, more so than I already was. All the idiot Jehovah's Witnesses who like glommed onto me, even though I wasn't going to meetings, but I was their ticket to go see film screenings with directors, and they can go see like bands with me and be on the guest list because I was writing for the Chronicle at the time. So they were all up my ass until they found out that I had written a book called I don't even think I had the title yet, but it was what turned out to be Confessions of a Teenage Jesus Jerk. And
that one there.
Oh yeah, that's the film. That's the film poster, and that's Sasha, who plays Gabe, essentially my alter ego.
Yeah.
And that's Charlie, who plays Jasmine in the film. And both, I mean, what the actors brought to that was just so amazing. And I texted Sasha a couple hours ago. I'm like, dude, your photo's being used for my big time famous stuff. I'm going to be big time famous at 7:00 and your photo's being used, so it's, but everyone on that that film, the actors were just glorious. So yeah.
So how long was it when you first, not that it had a title, to getting onto the screen into a movie format?
So it was a novel first. I was trying to do it as a memoir. I was going back and forth with it. I realized the memoir is too absurd because you put all the tragedy in there, and people are just like, this you're out of your mind. And I was trying to write it for a general audience, not for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. So I changed it to a novel so I can fictionalize. Well, I didn't fictionalize any of the Jehovah's Witness stuff for the most part. But I did fictionalize what happened around the character that became Gabe, which was based on me at the beginning. And then, both the uncle and Uncle Jeff and Gabe are just me at two different times in my life. And I just put them in two different characters. And then I was like, oh, I need to make Gabe way cooler than me. And then I need to make Uncle Jeff a lot dumber than me because that's a lot of fun. So it was it's that it started playing with it that way. And and so anyway, to get back to your question. So the book was finished, and then 3 weeks, this is where timing is glorious. Book was finished. 3 weeks later, I find out I'm getting divorced. And the Jehovah's Witnesses are coming after me. Like I'm sitting there just spraying satanic cum all over their kids, and the timing was so impeccable because I wanted to write it from such a point of view of empathy and understanding, as well as just kind of what happens. And then after that, I was trying to get an agent and for the book, and trying to sell it to a publisher, and that took. I think that took about a year, maybe, which is kind of pretty fast.
Yep.
And then it got published a year later. And then, so it was published. Then it was optioned for a TV series pitch with a production company called Hunting Lane Films. They did Blue Valentine and Half Nelson. And then they've gone on to do films like The Accountant and stuff. And I had a great time working with them. And then the option, you know, it was going to be an HBO pitch. And then that fizzled out. Which, you know, it's like you learn, you know, you find out, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be on HBO. I'm going to be on HBO. And it's just like, yeah, no. In Hollywood, they tell you things, and, you know, not at any, the Hunting Lane Films was fantastic, but I was making it bigger than it was because I was still a young kid in it. And then the option lapsed. A couple other people got in touch, and then Eric Stoltz, read the book and was like, and he's directed a ton of TV, and he was like looking to see what to do for his feature film debut as a director. And he's just like, let's see if you can write a script on this and let's see what we can do. And so that was about 2 years after the book came out, and went back and forth with him on how to tackle it. And we had 2 months of heavy rewrites where I was staying up about 14 hours a day and just going back and forth with him. And then about a year later, we were in production. So that's a very long answer to what you probably thought was
no, that's fine. Yeah, no, that's fine. You know, it's for somebody who's never written a book, you know, to get it published and then made into a movie. So when you look back on the movie now, what do you think of the end result?
Oh, I love it. I haven't seen the movie in a couple of years. I think the last time I saw it was at a film festival, actually. But when I saw the rough cut, I was sent the rough cut, and then during post-production, they did ask me a few things. I was on set every day, so they really kept me involved in the story, and they knew that there had to be kind of truth to the whole thing, and there needed so we did get to tweak some story elements to, you know, let's do a better punchline here. Oh, we got bad weather tomorrow, we got to kill that scene. And then there was also, you know, the staying in the dogma of the Jehovah's Witnesses, where I just kind of sit on the side, and you know, usually once a day Eric would yell, Tony DuShane, and I'd like, if he was, and he'd be like, can we do that? And I'd be like, yeah or no, because just if a certain action was tried out in one of the takes. So when I saw the final cut, or when I saw the rough cut, I was just like, I was blown away. I was like, wow, we got it. What I was trying to get at, I just wanted like a fucked up after school special from Scandinavia vibe. That's I wanted something that didn't quite feel like an American film, that also kind of felt like an after school special. That's what I had pictured when I was writing the script. And then when I saw that cut, I was like, oh yes. It was just like everyone was on the same page. I mean, I saw some of the dailies and some scenes, but beyond that, when the final cut with the without the music, and they had a lot more sound design to do, but yeah, I loved it. It was, and a lot of people in Hollywood don't get to say that about their films. I know a lot of people who've written about their lives. Well, yeah, I mean, a handful of people who've written about their lives. It's been put to film, and they don't like it. I got to say that. I get to say, yeah, no, stamp of approval. Hell yes.
So you just said a story about your life. So how much of the movie is about your personal life then?
A lot of it is, and a lot of it is smashed together. So I had 3 friends kill themselves, and I just put that into one friend. And so, and in the end, Gabe's cooler than, well, he gets a lot more action than I did at that age. But you know, just put him I put him in those circumstances so we can get him. I mean, actually the sleepover where he has the Chrissy the sleepover his house because she's drunk, and then he's in the committee meeting for that. That happened to me almost verbatim, and I was in 2 4-hour committee meetings for that. And so all of that was just that was just straight out of my life. And then a lot of the parent scenes with me, a lot of that was just straight dialogue that I had with my dad when I was a teenager. It was just right there. So but in the movie, Gabe, the movie is like a 10, like for me, that was a 10 years of my life. But the conflicts, but I smashed it into a year, or we'd have to make Benjamin Buttons and have a lot of prosthetics. And then I'd be like, and then 2 years later, and then just, those get boring really quick. So,
yeah. You mentioned before that you were on the set quite often. Tell us about this picture.
Oh yeah, that picture just cracks me up because we had that youth book on set, and we actually directly quoted from the youth book on set. And that was we were shooting. I think we were shooting the scene in Peter's room when Peter and Gabe are talking about like they can't wait to get married and and have barbecues together and stuff. So that was the day on set there. And for some odd reason, I don't even remember what we're talking about, but Eric just had the book open. It looks like I'm preaching to him. Just like, oh man, it was such a beautiful, and he's in the suit, and I'm just kind of in a suit jacket, and it's just like, well, Eric, after this film, we can discuss what you feel like about living forever on a paradise Earth,
Oh, the infamous use book.
Yeah. Masturbation's homosexuality. That's why I love that one, because it's like masturbation leads to homosexuality. I'm like, I don't want to touch anyone else's. I only want to touch mine.
Yeah, I can remember some funny times with my dad going through that book.
Oh, it was horrible. And I just even when they would mention anything about masturbation, or I hated the scripture. For a man who looks at a woman wrong is already banging her. I think that's the direct quote from the Bible. And my head would just beam in this big. I knew I was like emanating a big red light at the Kingdom Hall. I was like, oh my God, everyone knows it's me and only me who would even do that.
Yeah, I learned at a meetup that we had here. Oh no, everybody did it.
Yeah,
everybody was doing those things.
Yeah, even now I know. Now I was like, oh, even elders, even married elders, sometimes especially married elders.
Yep, it's just crazy. In fact, I was up in Auckland last week. We had a meetup up there, and they were talking about all these ones who had done something before they got married, and they didn't know anybody who didn't do anything until they got married. And I said, excuse me, I didn't do anything until I got married. And they go, what? And to me, that was much like what you said earlier. I thought it was normal. That's what happened. But I learned otherwise since. Yeah. And then it's just like, and then I know I had other committee meetings too, where I touched a vagina and I had to confess to it. And the elders were like, did you penetrate? And I'm like, I don't know. And they were drilling me on it like I was lying. I'm like, I really don't know. And then after I got married, I was like, oh, I didn't, because if you penetrate, it's warm in there. It's just like, it's just like I don't have that knowledge yet. Yep. Oh, dear me. Okay, so you ended up writing this story, which turned into a movie. Anything else happened from that movie since it came out? The book?
How do you mean?
Well, you mentioned before.
Go ahead. Yeah.
You mentioned before that the witnesses were looking at you, thinking he wrote that book.
I was hoping for at least a district assembly mention. Whoever, I was hoping that the Watchtower just come out. my whole life, I just want to be, I wanted it in print where they were like, yeah, and don't watch Tony DuShane's movie. And I'd be like, yeah, why I won. Now, you know how the Jehovah's Witnesses do it. It's just absolute silence. But what did change is, because I never got disassociated, I never got disfellowshipped. And what did change is my family, who was still Jehovah's Witnesses and still like, hung out with me, I was cut off. And it was, it was an obvious, they were no longer taking my phone calls. One time my aunt called me accidentally and I hadn't heard from her in like a year and a half. I was like, oh my God, I picked up the phone and I saw a message from her. I'm like, oh my God. And she's like, I'm sorry, I got the wrong number, but I just wanted to let you know that I know you're like working on film and TV stuff. And if you go to jw.org, they also have a film studio. And then she hung up and I was just like, okay, that's going to be the extent of our relationship. That will probably be the last words I hear from her before she dies and jw.org. So yeah. Anyway, that's what the fallout was.
Okay.
I mean, other than that, it's just been glorious blessings. It's just been cool because, I'm a writer first, and I just to just get a book out, to be among the, just to kind of be in that club, and also and what's interesting about the club is a lot of people are like, oh, hey, so you got your book out, huh? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, huh? And I was like, yeah. It's just like, it's glorious, but it's just so nothing at the same time. It's just like, oh wait, I have a book out. So it's a fun club to be in and finally understand, it's, and I can't wait to have another one out. And I'm working on a couple of things right now. So.
We'll get into that a little bit later. I just want to go and look at some of your photos that you sent us. Tell us a little bit about it. Now, the first one that comes up is a bunch of teeny tots to, I don't know, maybe 10. You'll have to correct me on that. Tell me a little bit about this bunch.
Yeah, I'm in the
plaid Which jacket. One are you? You're not the one there in the little dress with curly hair?
No, but
no,
no, that's not me. No, I'm in the I'm next to the blue jacket kid. I'm the big smile, happy because Jehovah's helping me.
Of course,
so yeah, that's it's funny that when they were talking about publicity for the movie and stuff, they asked me for a lot of photos. And they didn't use them. But I think that was one angle they were going to go with. And so I was just like, dug up some stuff. And this is kind of one of those, oh yeah, no, I really was in from a very young age. So.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's me two. And my ex-wife. Yeah. That's me and my ex-wife. In Paris, we had just gotten out of the Paris English congregation meeting, which was in, the 20th arrondissement. I'm probably saying that wrong. There was the one near Père Lachaise, and that was in 1996. So
1996.
Yep.
How long did you spend there?
I went out. The first time I went, I was there for a few weeks. The next time I went, we kind of blew through, and then we went to like Prague and Italy, and we're bouncing around. So, but I knew people from the French congregation or from the English congregation in France, because I was going to the French congregation in the Bay Area, because when I still totally believed and I didn't have questions yet, even before I got married, and just because it was so tedious to hear the same old crap over and over again. But what if it's in French and I learn French as I do it? So that was my angle. And I'm like, I'm going to go help the French congregation. And so I had a pretty decent hold on conversating just enough in the French language so I can bounce around the French congregation and then go to the English congregation in France and just be gloriously hugged and adored for, what we're doing in America.
For a little bit. Now, these three young likely lads.
Yeah, that was funny. I saw it. So that's obviously me on the right there with my tongue out. And then
were you awake or asleep?
Oh no, I was awake. I think that's after it, but that's after an assembly. When you go out after the assemblies, when it's just like the big thing is just like, we went to a convention, all right, we're all going to go out, and how did you see the girl in section H, row 6? And I'm like, oh my God, my binoculars were over on the wrong area. I'll check there tomorrow. But yeah, those two guys were kind of like my best friends, and they just like they shunned me really early on.
Oh, really?
They were, yeah, like, because they were just disgusted that I was stopped going to meetings, and I was even in that the guy in the middle. I was in his wedding, and I saw that. I was just like, oh my God, PTSD, because friends in the Jehovah's Witnesses, friends outside the Jehovah's Witnesses, the definition's just so much richer and larger, and friends in the Jehovah's Witnesses is just you think you're all, it's really just like being under like almost like a Stasi type authoritarian. So everything's fine unless you say the wrong thing, then everyone's going to turn you in, but everything's fine and we all love each other. So you think you have all these close relationships, but the relationships are easily burned the minute you
very conditional.
Yeah.
I noticed though, here in New Zealand, we were always encouraged to wear our lapel badge. You don't seem to have one on your suit.
Well, actually, so that's a great question. So the work around that is notice that none of us have our suit jackets on.
Oh, of course.
So the lapels stay on, but you gotta take them off, man.
Now, who are these likely dads?
So that's me in the red. That's at a convention. That's me in the me and Anthony's in the middle, and Matt's on the other side. Matt is actually, so Matt killed himself, and in Jesus Jerk, he wasn't based on any characters, but how he killed himself was a homage to him, because that's how he killed himself, was on a tree in a park near where we used to do crazy stuff. So yeah, I was just like, I saw that, I was like, oh my God, Matt. I mean, and he killed himself, I think, in 1997, and he still appears in my dreams sometimes. A lot of the times I'm like, dude, what are you doing here? And I don't know, and people talk to me about because I don't know about, I don't care. I mean, I don't know about life after death or what goes on, but some people tell me that, if someone kills themselves, they'll have a hard time leaving this realm or whatever. And I don't know if he's coming to me in dreams or not, or if it is nothingness after. It's nice not knowing, because they used to just beat it down our throats, and we would beat it down other people's throats. So it's like, oh, you know what? I don't know. But yeah, lovely Matt. I miss that guy. He was like my little brother. So
yeah, it is sad. But you got a lapel cards on your jacket
to tell the ladies what our names are.
That's right. and that yellow thing with a black plastic bag, is that where all the old publications went to before?
Yeah, exactly.
Now this one, I think I found
that's our actors on set. So that's
the actors on set.
That's Sasha, Kit, and Nick. And that was the assembly scene in Jesus Jerk. And that was I think that was in the middle of a setup for a scene or whatever. But our set photographer Buck did a fantastic job just capturing some of the hangout.
Looking at that photograph and the guy's facial reactions, like the one further the other end from where you are, that reminds me how I felt at the district convention.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, well, at the same time, on set, everyone's tired. You're doing it's 12-hour days, 13-hour days. But those actors, we all stayed at the same house. And so the night before, the next day, I would get a little glass of scotch, and they'd be like, Sasha would be like, Tony, I need to talk to you, because I was in another room. I'd be like, yeah. So then I would just like go, I'm wiped out. I'd go lay down on the floor in their room as they were asking me about the scene for the next day. So we were like talking about the scene for the next day. everything was just work. So what you're looking at is like 3 actors powering through, especially Sasha, who was on set every day, and it's just like, how do I not lose my mind and still put out a good performance? And I don't know how they did it, because I got to I didn't have to look good on camera. So
now this one's a little bit smaller. We'll just blow it up a bit.
Oh yeah. I sent
What's
you
this one?
I sent you just
It's closer to your age now, so
yeah, I think I can't remember when that was, but that was before Jesus Jerk came out. It might have been when I was still married. And but I used to do a lot of readings, and before that I did some stand up at that, but I don't there's only one photo of me somewhere in a newspaper doing stand up, but that's doing a reading somewhere. So I was in San Francisco, and we we were, and there would be 5 or 6 people who were writers who would read, and reading series. So
cool.
Yeah.
Is that it? I think that's the last photo. I thought you.
Well, all right then.
Where is the? It's not working. Is it going to do anything? No, looks like it.
All right. And that was the show and tell section of the show.
That was the show and tell section. So during that whole time of you writing the book, how were you feeling?
It was that's a good question. It started as a short story.
Right.
And I had the short story online. It was the first time I ever wrote about being a Jehovah's Witness. And it felt like it was scary, because I didn't tell people, I wouldn't make it common knowledge I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. Yep. And then I finally wrote the short story. And the short story is actually it ended up in the film when he's going preaching with Jasmine, and she's sitting next to him in the back of the car, and their legs are rubbing up to next to each other, and just how much fire there was, and how much that was the short story of of going preaching, but also having that like beautiful moment with a young sister that I was in love with, and then it grew from there. And so the first draft was all excitement. I was like, oh, whoa, I'm a writer. I was so cocky just walking down the street. I went to my high school reunion. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm writing a novel. And they're like, oh great. It's just like another one. But it took about 3 years to get to a final draft. And even then there was more cuts to do, but at least there was enough of a book to get it out to agents and publishers. And it was hard. It got to be really hard, because I had to put myself in a headspace of absolute empathy for the characters who were Jehovah's Witnesses, and not take any shots at them. I was really just trying to set a tone. So when I really just wanted a reader who knew nothing about Jehovah's Witnesses to feel like a Jehovah's Witness when they read it. And so that there was a lot of mixed feelings. There was a lot of nights that were very rough for me, especially putting Gabe through, just putting him through stuff I went through. I mean, even when it got to film and we were on set, and by that point I was friends with Sasha. At the committee meeting, the day that we shot the committee meeting scenes, there was 2 committee meetings actually in the script that we shot, and only one made the final cut, but that was the right choice. Yeah, we didn't need both, but I couldn't be on set. I went back to the office. I couldn't be on set while Sasha was being grilled by lovely actors who were playing elders, who were totally great guys. But I couldn't see my character and this new friend, Sasha, be in the same situation I was. It just broke my heart, and I couldn't be in the room for that one. I'd come back up and do a little things that Eric's like, hey, does this right? Yeah, that's right. Okay. And then I just had my walkie-talkie and was just like in the office hanging out with wardrobe and makeup, as they were like, all right, we got the writer's going to invade our space today. Great.
Can I just ask those ones who are part of that scene, what do they think of the whole thing?
I'm sorry, the who?
All the actors that were
Oh,
in Jesus Jerk,
yeah.
now understanding the Jehovah's Witnesses in a different light. What were their
Somewhat.
thinking?
Well, it's interesting because there was a real camaraderie on the set.
Yeah.
They and plus everyone's doing such different things. So for the actors, and even Sasha, he asked me if he should go to the Kingdom Hall and if he should read the books, and I told him no, don't. I was like, you guys. No, and it wasn't in a way. If I thought that the research would be good, that would have suggested it. But I think what they all did very well was find their own way to get to convey what was written and to convey the feelings. So they didn't need to know what a Jehovah's Witness felt. They needed what they did, and what these actors did spectacularly is they went back into themselves and were like, when did I feel this way? And so they had their interpretation of it, and it was beautiful. So when we were one of the first film festivals we were at, and there was a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses there, which was really funny. And they were coming up to Sasha, and Sasha came over to me. His like face was like white. He's like, these people, they're asking me like when I left the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I'm like, they have no clue that he doesn't know all the ins and outs. He's just a great actor. And and I was like, dude, just nod your head. It's just they're excited. Yeah. They don't understand you're an actor. Just nod your head and go.
We had a Christian come in. Would like to know what your favorite experience in doing the movie with the crew was.
God, there was just so many of them. Let me try to think of one where I was blown away. Oh, the one where I was blown away was when Paul, who plays the dad, slapped Sasha playing Gabe. That scene, because the slap wasn't in the script, and so me and Eric were behind the monitor, and it was about Paul getting Sasha into the car, and so. There was about 8 or 9 takes from the angle, and Eric goes, hold on a second, and he walked over and he whispered to Paul, came back to me, he's all, watch this. I told Paul to slap Sasha on this take. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, did you tell Sasha? He's all, no. He's like, look, this isn't the take we're going to use, but I need Sasha to have more fear. So the next take we do, Sasha won't know if he's going to get a slap, and that's when we're going to have the reaction that we do. Yeah. And Paul slapped him, and he almost hit the ground. And he and Sasha, Sasha. They all stayed in scene, and Sasha just burst into tears. And when he's screaming in the car, when he's screaming, I'm sorry," like at the top of his lungs, that's right after the slap. And and all of that stayed in the film. And that's just movie magic, because Eric's just So. That was one of those nights on set where, because all the crew wants to do is keep working so they can get out of there in time.
Yep.
And so, and then it's just like, all right, we're about to shoot, so everyone has to be quiet. And then it's just like, all right, hurry up, dude. Okay. And then the minute cut, everyone's loud and working again. That night, when they kept doing that one over and over and trying to get the essence of it, nobody worked in between takes. They were just all like this. we were just watching this scene just grow and grow and grow. Yeah. And as I was walking to the car, me and Eric were walking to our cars, and Eric's he's like a giddy kid when it's going right. And he just looked at me. He's like this. He's like, huh? I'm just like, dude, I don't know whether to kill someone or masturbate. And he's like, go home and masturbate, and I'll see you tomorrow.
I'm sure plenty of J-Dub kids can remember getting slapped to get into the car. Yeah. So that was reality, really, for a lot of J-Dub kids.
Yeah, and also Paul says, he added, get the fuck into the car. And that's when Eric said, holy crap. He's like, Tony, can we use that? And I was like, yeah, he could swear this one time because the intensity is so high, but he can't swear any other time in the film if he wants to bring in any swearing. So when he says get the fuck in the car, it's just so glorious. It's just like because Paul was in the emotion of the moment, and he needed to get Sasha in that car. and Sasha just crushed the whole family and crushed the congregation. It was so beautiful. Yeah.
I could just imagine all those takes and then getting slapped.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think when we got back to set, actually, because I was, so I wouldn't let anyone drive with me to set, so I can do an audio diary. So when I would drive home, that would be the time that I can sit there and like talk about the day of the set. That day, I wept. It was about a half hour to get back to where we were staying. I wept all the way home, and then when Sasha and the other boys came in, I just saw Sasha and he saw me and we just like hugged and didn't say anything, and then we just went to our rooms. It was just like there's nothing else, dude. We're all done.
So you wrote that book. Was that your first major book that you wrote?
Yeah, well, I thought I had other major books. I worked on a couple other novels before I really just went full steam ahead on this one. So I think I did have a novel that was just terrible. But
why was it terrible?
Well, it's just is the characters weren't fleshed out, the conflict wasn't there. But the great thing about it is you need to write terribly in order to learn how to write. There's something about it. So most everyone I know who has a novel out and they're like, oh, is that your first novel? It's the first published novel. But usually there's a novel before that that's atrocious. But everyone needs to write the atrocious book. And then you go, oh, wait, I think I know how to do it now. And then you spend, torturous years. It's in utter delusion because, writing is, you don't know if it's going to get published. You don't know if anything's going to happen to it. It might just turn into a paper airplane for someone, so it's a huge gamble. So.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned before you got a couple of projects coming up. So that we don't break any top secret information, can you share anything about them?
Well, I got one. I wrote a script a couple years ago, and it was it's not really, it's kind of not really based on my life, but there is one character that's really based on me, but it's a bit character. And it stays in the Jehovah's Witnesses completely. Nobody leaves. There's that one. And and then I'm working on something that has absolutely nothing to do with the Jehovah's Witness. Thank God, dear Lord, praise Jesus.
We had a comment with regard to your writing, because it seems like writing's quite a big part of your life from an early age, really. And they want to know.
Not really. Go ahead.
Not really? Yeah, they want to know what advice can you give for us aspiring writers out here?
The main thing is to read constantly and to write. My friend Janet Fitch has this wonderful quote. She says, reading is breathing in, writing is breathing out. So just keep reading, just keep writing. And that's essentially, then you have to find your community. I teach writing. So, I get to work with students. I'm working with students all the time for the past like 6-7 years. And it's an absolute blast. And a lot of community comes out of that. And a lot of those students will work together, and they'll get agents. They'll have, a couple of them have had books published. And, but, part of it was they found, along with learning craft, they found their other delusional people like we all are. And they're like, all right, let's also hang out. So.
Cool. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to doing in the future?
Sleeping. Oh, not the immediate future. Okay.
Yeah. No, not like tonight and say an hour or so, 2 hours, whatever. We're talking maybe, I don't know, a year, 2 years.
I I was really bent on trying to get staffed on a TV show in LA. And I was working toward that. And then I start to realize it's just corporate. It all feels corporate unless you're doing your own thing. So right now, I have a couple of, delusional dreams. If I can if I can, because the script I worked on that's based in the Jehovah's Witnesses actually is also a TV series pitch. So the film would only be like the first 3 episodes of the TV show, and then I have a pitch for 3 seasons. And so if there's any momentum in that, I would get a kick out of directing. And
Oh, okay.
I might direct a short film. I really being on set's glorious and horrendous all at once, and there's just a lovely there's a lovely war to it, and you just it's and I learned so much from Eric. I even went and shadowed Eric as because he was executive producer and director on Madam Secretary. So I went and hung with him when he was directing, and it's just the way he creates the tone on the set is everything. There's just so much a director needs to do to create tone, and to kind of just set the tone and set the rhythm and get all the shots in. And it's just, there's something sexy about constant problem solving and pressure. And I want to do that again. I want to be under the gun. Some people want to go to the Bahamas. I want to sit in a dank warehouse somewhere figuring out how we're going to do something that's monumentally awful to do.
So looking back over everything you've done from 3 years of age till now, if somebody had gone through similar things as you have, what would you encourage a Jehovah's Witness who's sitting there in the Kingdom Hall, or maybe it's just a child from a family of witnesses, never been baptized? What would you say to them if they were thinking about getting out?
Yeah, it's I mean, if they're thinking, everyone's so different, Yeah, if they're a kid and they want to get out, there's so much involved, and they really hang the if you leave, you're going to be kicked out of the house kind of thing. But a lot of people get kicked out of the house and they turn out to be really cool people. Not even it's just like, I know people who weren't Jehovah's Witnesses that got kicked out at 14. And it worked out. People make their way. But yeah, it's I think that's a complicated answer because we go in and out of it's about the shedding more than just getting out. Getting out is like step 1. And then there's the shedding of the belief system. And even now, and I consider myself out for 20 years. Haven't gone to the memorial since 2008, so that's the final out. But even now, there's things that my brain will like kind of ping on me, and it'll be a Jehovah's Witness type of thought, And I was even talking to my therapist this week because I was having anxiety over a couple of things, and we were really kind of exploring that, and it kind of turns out, she's just like, you have PTSD from a very abusive community, and what they did was hold you down, and they constantly held you down. And from what you and even when I believed, I was just very creative and very expressive, and just I had the juices. I was on fire, and they had to keep putting the fire out, going no, and so it's just funny that my body will hit a panic attack, and it's almost my body punishing me like the Jehovah's Witnesses would punish me, because that's what the body knows from a very young age. I think when people want to leave, just know it's part of a journey, and it's going to be back and forth, and there's going to be like, oh my God, did I make the right decision? And guess what? I wake up every morning, and not even Jehovah's Witness stuff, and I go, did I make the right decision about blank? It's like, but a lot of it's just sink into humanity and the human race. It ain't so shabby. It's sometimes awful and sometimes all right. So,
You've mentioned therapy a few times. You've done it for a long period of time. Are you glad you did that?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I don't think the book could have been written if I wasn't in therapy. when I was writing the book, I was in therapy twice a week.
Right.
And because I had to talk about my own stuff, get all that out, and then I can get back to the book and work on the characters and work on the conflict and work on the plot. Yeah. So, and also to just keep growing and keep shifting and keep trying to keep, it's, yeah, we never stop growing and learning. And when we find out new things where we're just like, oh wait, I've been hiding this at the wrong angle. Oh wait, my thoughts on that weren't great. If I move my thoughts around this way, oh, I learned from that. Just the little shifts in life. Therapy helps a lot. I think it kind of speeds it up a little bit too, it's just, yeah. So therapy for everyone, I think, is pretty important. Most everyone I know, who I'm good friends with, they're in therapy. And then the people are like, I've never been in therapy in my life. And I'm like, yeah, I also notice we don't hang out that much either. All right.
So would you encourage somebody to go to therapy?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's another tool. We need tools in life.
Absolutely.
For me, finding novels and finding writers was everything, because I didn't really find it. It was when a friend of mine, Gibby, killed himself, and I was grieving him, that the elders were, they were kind of really shitting on me and saying I shouldn't grieve him because he was disfellowshipped. And it blew my mind. And I'm like, how do I not kill myself? So I started going to the library and just trying to read psychology books. And then I happened upon James Baldwin got in my hands, and I read Giovanni's Room, and I'm like, the heart of the book blew my mind. I'm like, wait, is there more like this? And I found Henry Miller, and I read him, and I'm like, these people they're speaking to me with these feelings that I haven't been able to talk to anybody about. There's such an intimacy in a conversation they were having with me. So it was kind of the way I can hang out with worldly people and really dive into the mind of, it's okay, the world's a mess, and here's this, and so just reading novels is also been an important part of my journey. It's meant everything to me. So.
No, that's great. So I was even looking at your Facebook page. You seem to do a lot of podcast interviewing and other sorts of things. What do you do when you're not making books into movies?
Well, I've done it for some years now. I'm pretty good at it. Yeah. No, I started this podcast that was a radio show for a while. So it's called Drinks with Tony, and I interview writers. And I started it around 2001.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was a way just for me to like talk. My first guest was Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote Fight Club, and I got to go have lunch with him. And I'm just sitting there going, wait, you can just do this? And and the technology was so new back then. It was like, I don't even think there was a word for podcast yet. And it was called the literary stream, it was just like the literary audio stream. Yep. And then I was doing it on radio stations in San Francisco, Radio Valencia and Pirate Cat Radio. But then I moved to LA, so I just stopped doing that in 2013 when we were in development on Jesus Jerk. And then after Jesus Jerk came out, and it was like 2018, so there was like a 5-year hiatus, I was so depressed. And I was like walking to the cafe just going, what was the last thing that made me happy? I was so down on everything. And I was like, oh my God, doing Drinks with Tony. So I just started doing it again, but as a podcast only. And I'm just like, yeah, let's just do this again. And if I can get guests for 10 weeks in a row, cool. And then if there's no guests after that, I do something else. And now I'm overbooked. People are like, hey, so we have a book coming out. Because people think some of them are my friends, but even when they're my friends, they're publicists. I'm dealing with their publicists. So, but I'm booked to December now with Drinks with Tony. And, so that's kind of been really important to me, because I just I love talking with writers and having having authentic conversations, which I don't feel we're losing authenticity so much, like as a society. Definitely. And I think there's just something about writers. There's some writers that really like suck at being authentic, and some of them have been on my show, and those aren't the better shows. But a good percentage of them really open up, and we can have like just a discussion. And it's beautiful, and yeah, I crave it. So I love doing Drinks with Tony, and I'm shooting some ideas on another podcast, and the medium's like right there, and I've been kind of lazy on it. But now that we're getting out of pandemic, but we might be back in, who knows? But it's just like I got to fire up my ass to really put some stuff together. And it's like what would be one of my dream things to happen? I would love to be running a podcast studio and to have my, to do everything from there, and at the podcast studio also have events for writers come through, and then writer discussions, and then maybe even writing classes. I mean, that's something that would be fun. That would it would be like, that wouldn't feel like a job to me. I could do that 14 hours a day and just be excited. So
think about all your podcast. Who's been one of the most memorable that you enjoyed chatting with about a book they've just written?
Oh, there's way too many. But I had on in 2002, when I changed the name of the show to Drinks with Tony, and as I was riding my bicycle to go interview this guy, and it was his
your bicycle. Book.
Yeah, I had my field gear, my in my backpack, my recording gear. So I rode my bicycle to the interview, and as I was riding there, I'm like, oh, it's called Drinks with Tony, because I kept interviewing these authors at cafes or bars. Yeah. So, and the original concept was, we're going to drink and loosen up, so we can get socially lubricated. Nowadays, I'd rather be utterly like, awkward, have 2 cups of coffee and nobody drinks. And I think there's better conversations with that. It's we can get like intimate and also like hurt about it immediately, so there's, but Mark Haskell Smith, his first book, Moist, came out in 2002, and his 11th or 12th book is coming out in a couple weeks. It's called Rude Talk in Athens, and we're gonna interview in 2 weeks, and I've had him on the show for every one of his books. And when he come through San Francisco, he come into the radio studio, and so it's I can't wait to do Mark again, because Mark's been a lovely through line of what Drinks with Tony is, and we're friends too. I love the guy. So but yeah, he's fantastic, and there's been some amazing surprises. Sometimes I won't like the book, and I'll think I will be like, oh, nothing's going to happen with this author, and then I get surprised because they're actually amazing and they blow me away, and I'm the idiot who thought that they wouldn't blow me away. So there's a lot of it's just interesting how we can perceive someone, but when you sit down and have a cup of coffee with them and record an interview, you find the things in common you have. And it's we're in such a social media thing that happens where it's just like, no, go break bread with someone. That's when you find out who they are. And that's when you find out, they're not the assholes they pretend to be on social media. They actually are 3-dimensional when you just sit there and talk to them for a while, so. And I'm sure they say the same thing about me too. Oh dear Lord, I got to do the goofy Drinks with Tony guy. And then they get on, they're like, oh, he wasn't half bad.
We'll shut that phone call up.
Are your eggs done?
My eggs done. Well, they might have been to pot by now, but I was going to say, well, we really appreciate you being here. We know you're busy, and you've had a lot of different things happening over the period of time, and sharing your story, sharing your authentic self. It's great to see.
Thanks, Shane. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate
you
letting me on.
I was really looking forward to this, just to hear your story. Like I said, I'd watched your movie, and at the start I was going, what's this? And then at the end I'm going, oh yeah, that's all real. So it changed me as I went through, thinking, yeah, that's really what happened. My life in J-Dubs was unusual, totally unusual. But anyway, that's all in the past. And the things that you look forward to doing in the future, we hope that you reach some of them, maybe the schools and writing and doing your 14-hour holiday.
I love teaching. I'm still teaching all the time, and that's just that's so gratifying to see just to see students finally get it and start And it's like they have the great idea and it's beautiful, and then it's just like when they get it and they just throw you that scene that's amazing, and you're like, oh my God, yes. Wait, we ended the interview. I'm sorry. That was
no, that's fine. I just thought of just another question while you're talking about teaching. You mentioned that you're teaching somebody in Korea. How far do you actually teach?
So yeah, that was I teach at UCLA Extension. So before COVID, I was on campus, and then when COVID happened, all of a sudden I had to learn how to remote teach like immediately. And so I was doing some Zoom teaching, and then I have a online only where we're not on Zoom. But yeah, so some of the writing courses I've taught, I usually teach screenwriting now. So but some of them have been on Zoom, and even though the class a lot of people are, I get people from the UK and stuff that are like, they're excited because there's a lot more online offerings. So they can just go, oh, wait, I can go to UCLA Extension and take a screenwriting course. And so it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you once again for sharing what you have today.
Thank you, Shane.
For those who are on the live stream, for those who are going to watch it later, we really have appreciated you being here, and we look forward to seeing you again on one of our live streams coming up. Until then, keep safe, keep your smile on, and enjoy life and be happy. Thanks, Tony. Look forward to catching up again soon.
Yes.